Alright folks, let's overanalyze another common trope in movies and video games. How difficult would it be in real life to How difficult would it be to assassinate? Okay, Censor Zombie apparently does not approve of these terms. How difficult would it be to neutralize an enemy sentry, the way it's often shown in movies and video games, the silent thrown knife takedown. Now this, of course, is very likely to get demonetized or partially demonetized by YouTube because of the horrific, traumatizing nature of fictional violence. So I would be grateful if you considered supporting the channel on Patreon, even if it's just $1 a month. Everything helps. I'm trying to get as independent of YouTube ad revenue as I can. So link is down below. Also a link to Patron Blades, which is similar except that you get razors and blades every month. And for the nowadays obligatory disclaimer, this video is not intended to promote or encourage violence in any way, shape, or form. It's just for entertainment and to learn a bit about human anatomy. Alright, so one of the possible scenarios is that the hero encounters a guard who maybe just comes around a corner, is suddenly close to them, sees them, and the hero has a split second to do something about it. Or they sneak up on them, they turn around, stuff like that. Frontal takedown. How likely would that be to succeed? Well, in the front, of course, the forehead is a nice large target. The problem with that is it's round and it's pretty good at deflecting incoming projectiles. It's almost like the skull evolved to efficiently protect our squishy central processing unit. Anyway, so even if you were able to get through it, which is not that easy, there's a video on Zombie Go Boom's channel where a guy who's very good at knife throwing attempts it, and you see the knife glance right off the forehead. So let's assume for a moment the hero managed to get through the forehead with a very powerful throw. What's behind it? The frontal lobes. So those parts of the brain are responsible for voluntary movement, speaking, and higher cognitive functions. If they're damaged, that could lead to partial paralysis in various parts of the body, inability to plan complex tasks involving various steps, and also personality changes, things of that nature, a few other things as well. Nothing that would necessarily immediately stop the person from being able to cry out. They might be incapacitated or partially incapacitated, but they would probably still be able to alert others. And this also applies to zombies, by the way. If you stab a zombie through the forehead into the brain, maybe you could partially paralyze it, but there's a lot of functions that this part or these parts of the brain fulfill that don't really matter to a zombie. I mean, personality, higher cognitive functions, they don't have that to begin with. What you also commonly see in fictional settings is the knife throw through an eye. Now this would be a lot easier to penetrate because there isn't as much bone. There is some bone in the eye socket behind the eyeball, but it's not as massive, of course, as the forehead. So it would be a little easier. Now, at least in terms of penetrating the bone, it would of course be a lot harder to hit. It takes a lot of accuracy to hit the eye socket. Now, in that video that I mentioned by Zombie Go, when we see that, it's a very nice throw directly through the eye socket, and it does get into the cranial cavity. So it is possible, just requires a lot of skill. During the planning of this video, I actually talked to one of my subscribers who is a physician at a hospital, and he had a number of patients actually survive injuries to the eye socket, and some of them were even able to walk or drive to the hospital. And there were even a few rare cases where a blade would enter, would go around the eyeball. So it is possible to survive that. So if it entered through the eye socket, it would most likely damage the temporal lobe, which could lead to difficulty understanding spoken language, memory loss, persistent talking. I like this one because that's kind of the opposite of what the hero is trying to accomplish. Just imagine he throws that knife into a guard's eye, and the guard suddenly goes,
"Ah, somebody threw a knife in my eye. I can't believe this happened. This sucks. Oh man, my day has started out so bad. This is just terrible. I hate this. I hate my job."
Just starts babbling. That would be yeah, a little inconvenient for the hero, I would imagine. Also, aggressive behavior. Again, not exactly what the hero is trying to accomplish here. Just like, you hit me in the eye, I'm gonna mess you up. All of this is, of course, simplification. It depends on exactly which part of the frontal lobe or temporal lobe is being hit. And also, of course, if it's just one knife, it would only be damage to one or the other. So it wouldn't take out that many brain functions necessarily, unless the hero is that crazy skilled that they can throw two knives at the same time and hit both eye sockets simultaneously. That would be almost superhero level. Anyway, depending on how the blade enters, it could potentially hit the cerebellum as well. So that would be likely if it's from above, angled down. That could perhaps happen, but then there is more bone structure to get through. So this would be a much better target, but I'll get back to that in a moment. Now, the largest and easiest target to hit from the front would, of course, be the chest, but that's pretty much a no-go as far as instant incapacitation is concerned. People have gone with pretty severe stab wounds to the chest for quite a while and survived, so it's not a guarantee by any means. Maybe a lucky hit to the diaphragm might be able to prevent air from getting to the lungs and prevent the sentry from calling out, but it doesn't seem very likely. The throat, on the other hand, would be much more likely because you have major blood vessels and nerves there, and also any damage to the trachea would probably shut down the victim's voice. So the sentry wouldn't be able to make any kind of sound. It wouldn't be this very clean, instantaneous takedown as you see in video games and movies. They would probably struggle for a while, but at least it would be relatively silent. But of course the problem is this is a tiny target. This is very hard to hit, and if the head is tilted down, it becomes completely or almost completely unavailable. So very, very difficult to hit. Generally, as far as brain structures are concerned, the best bet would be damaging the cerebellum or the brain stem, because that's responsible for motor functions and basic life functions, heartbeat, breathing, etc. So any kind of hit there would be most likely lethal and probably also incapacitating immediately. So that would be from the back. Now, the problem here is that the skull is very thick in the back. Again, it evolved to specifically protect the most vital parts well. So you see there's a lot of brain there. A lot of brain? A lot of bone there. So it would be theoretically possible but difficult, both to hit such a small area, also to get through all of that bone and do enough damage. And then, of course, also you have to consider that it's at a distance, and ideally as far away as possible, because if the hero is too close, then the guard is more likely to spot them anyway. And also, if they get close enough, at some point, they would probably be better off just rushing the guard and taking them down that way. As far as gameplay is concerned, that's of course good for balance, because you want a disadvantage to that. You can't just have an insta-takedown button that you can use from any distance. So you'd have to get that close, which is a lot harder. Anyway, so of course you could go into a lot more detail about anatomy, and you could discuss this to depth. But I think the video is long enough and we can leave it at that. So again, I'll leave some links down below, among other things, also to the video in which I reviewed these throwing knives here if you're interested in them. Alright, thanks for watching, hope you liked it, and have a good one, folks.